Hi everyone, this is Adam Virgil, and in this video I'm going to explain how these NFL comparison tools work that I developed in Google Sheets. They include data from the NFL Combine dating back to the year 2000, so 2000 through 2020 currently, and game performance data dating back to 2000, so 2000 to 2020 currently. And there are two primary tools that we can use. The first is the NFL player comparison, which you can select a player in the NFL and see how similar or dissimilar they are to other players in both respect to the combine and game performance, and a compilation of those two things. The second area is an area that only relates to the combine, and you put in your own combine numbers, and you can see how similar or dissimilar you are to NFL players at the position that you're interested in. And in this video, I'm going to go over how both of those things work generally, and in other videos, I'll dive into the details and intricacies about how all the things work in more depth. So what we're on right now, and what you see on my screen, is the NFL player comparison, where we select an NFL player, and we can see who they're similar to or dissimilar to. And I want to go over what each of these metrics mean, and how to interpret them before we do anything else. So the first thing that we see is the player gets a combine score, and then there's an average for their position for that combine score. And they get a game performance score, and then there's an average for that position for game performance score. Now, these scores are developed using the z-scores for the metrics that the player has. For the combine, we give a z-score to all their physical performance metrics, which include the 40-yard dash, vertical jump, bench press, broad jump, 3-cone drill, and shuttle run drill. For a game score, we give a z-score for their games played, completion percentage, pass yards per year, pass touchdowns per year, interceptions per year, rush attempts per year, rush yards per year, rush touchdowns per year, adjusted net yards per attempt, their quarterback rating, and then their quarterback rating that ESPN generates. And I have a home tab here that gives details about what each of these metrics are. So you'll always have this home area as a reference. And that's how these two scores come about. Now, what you have an opportunity to do is you can select or deselect metrics that you care about or don't care about that go into these scores. A good example is if we look at the top game performers, which is all these metrics included, and seeing who has the highest score based on all these metrics, Lamar Jackson is at the top, and Cam Newton is number 2. Now, if we decide to not include rushing metrics for quarterbacks by deselecting them, we will see that our list changes and a new quarterback is at the top. And actually, Lamar Jackson and Cam Newton are nowhere to be seen on this list. So that shows the importance of selecting the metrics that you care about and deselecting the ones that you don't, in order to generate the scores that are most relevant for the context that you're looking at these players within. Now, the same is true for the combine metrics. Right now, we have all these metrics selected, and if let's say we did not care about vertical jump and the 40-yard dash, our list of top combine performers will change. And similarly, what you probably saw going on within this whole sheet was selecting and deselecting metrics we decide which metrics to include or exclude from similarity calculations as well. So what we're doing now is we have not included the 40-yard dash or vertical jump in our similarity equations for the combine when we're looking at who is most similar to Aaron Rodgers. Now, you need at least 3 physical performance combine metrics available to generate a combine score, because when you don't have data, the combine scores are very inaccurate. So if we select a third one, we'll get a combine score for Aaron Rodgers. The same is true for game performance metrics. The second part of this is, let's open up this plus button. There are lots of different things we can do with filters. So right now, we are comparing Aaron Rodgers to all the other quarterbacks that are available, and we can see that through our player pools that we have here. So we're comparing Aaron Rodgers Our current player pool for Combine includes 146 out of 146 total players. And these pools only include players that have more than or greater than or equal to 1 game played in the NFL. In general, I only have players in this database that have played at least a game in the NFL. But if we say, we only want to compare Aaron Rodgers to players that have played at least 10 games in the NFL, then we can use these filters up here to do that. So if we enter the number 10 in total GP, or games played between, click enter. Now we're looking at everyone who has total games played between 10 and 10,000, and you'll notice, because I show games played in these lists, that nobody with under 10 games played will show up on these lists. And if we choose 100, our list, again, will narrow down to only players that have over 100 games played in the database. We can bring it back down to 0. So that's how these filters work, and you can use them for any of the metrics that we have: completion percentage, rush attempts per year, adjusted net yards per attempt, etc. The other thing that you can do is you can sort these lists by the player name, by their similarity score, by games played, and you can always flip the sort, and you can tell the software how many people to show up. For example, if you just want to show the top 5, we can click the number 5 in here for show top, and now we only have a list of the top 5 for each category. Now let's bring this back up to 100, and if we wanted to make this or sort by something else, let's say we wanted to sort by player name, we could do that, and it's sorted by first name then last name. If we want to flip the sort around, again, we can do that. It just makes looking through the list a little bit easier, and maybe we also decide that we would like to sort by games played. Again, similarly, we can sort by any of these columns, which can allow us to identify things a little bit more quickly. And one thing that you'll notice that I forgot to mention a couple minutes prior is when we set a filter here, we'll be able to see how many players we take out of the comparison. So let's say we look at all quarterbacks who have played over 50 games in the NFL. Now we'll see, all right, our current player pool only includes 47 players. And for game performance similarity, it includes 58. We can bring that back down to 0. The last thing is when we're looking at the top game performers and top combine performers, we can sort by the same stuff: player name, games played, score, etc. The player's name that you have selected will be highlighted on the top game performers and top combine performance list so that we can see where they fall. So he has a combine score of 56. If we kind of scroll down to the 56 area, oh, and there we have it. There he is. And I round the numbers. So 56.3, it just rounds down to 56 in the display here. But actually is 56.3. So in general, that's how this page works. And hopefully it's helpful in identifying players that are similar to one another in both combine and game performance. Now, the next sheet that I want to talk about is entering in your own data to see who you or a client or an athlete is similar to in the NFL from a combine performance standpoint. So let's go to the next sheet. Let me just zoom in a bit here so we have a little bit more space. Oh, nice, it'll fit in 100%. That's great. This is an area where you can type in your name or the client's name or whoever it may be. My name is Adam Virgil, so I typed it in here, but it could be John Smith. Enter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't do anything. It's just for display purposes. And then here, this is where you enter in your own data. So maybe you are 68 inches tall, and you are 175 pounds, and your 40-yard dash was a 4.5, and your vertical jump was 30 inches, and this is the rest of your data, let's just say. Or maybe your 3-cone isn't that good, maybe it's 7.05 seconds. And now what this does is it generates a combine score for you, which is based on the data available for all the other NFL players. So this is giving you a score relative to all of the other NFL QBs in the database. And what you can quickly see is where you are below average with these z-scores. And I have in the home area, I have an interpretation thing that lets you figure out what different z-scores mean. And there's a lot of literature on that you can look up as well. But pretty much a -4 z-score means that this person is way below the average height of quarterbacks, and they're way below the average weight, but their 40-yard dash is significantly above the average for quarterbacks, or significantly better, I should say. So the number is lower, but the 40-yard dash, since lower is better, their score is significantly better than the average quarterback. So you kind of interpret this stuff, and it results in that score, and we can quickly see, all right, well, this is this person's combine score, who we've selected to compare ourselves to. So I'm really interested in Tom Brady. I select him. I can quickly see his z-scores and his values and how they match up with mine. And I can also see his game performance score and his combine score. If I was interested in someone else, let's say Russell Wilson, you can select him, and the numbers will change, and we can see their numbers and how similar we are to them. Now, just like the other page, I'm not sure if I mentioned it or not, height and weight do not go into combine performance scores, but they do go into similarity scores. Because if you're relatively the same height and weight as someone else, you would want that to be included in how similar you are to them, but it doesn't necessarily result in better or worse combine performance, or it may not be looked at in that light. You can also compare yourself to another player. Right now we have Aaron Rodgers selected. I don't know, I'm just thinking about it. If we want to compare ourselves to Brian Hoyer, we can do the same thing here. So we have two players. And now we're going to get to the most interesting part. But before we do that, let's just play around a little bit where we can check or uncheck things that are relevant to us, and similarities will change based on that, and our score and other scores will change based on that. Okay, now we can use filters the same way that we did before, where this isn't relevant for this, but it will be relevant for the next part, where we can set filters in a list to just see players who play more than 100 games or have a certain completion percentage range or whatever it may be. We'll get to that in a second. Now let's scroll down to our list. What this is it's a list of all the players, all the NFL players in the database that we have, and their combine similarity to you, what you typed in, the NFL player, their combine score, their game performance score, the number of games they played, and all of their combine metrics. So height, weight, 40-yard, vertical, bench, broad jump, 3-cone, and shuttle. And here's how you read this information. In regards to the similarity score, it's going to be a darkish blue color if it's 100%, and the further away you get from that, it'll go to white until you get to 50%, and if you're not similar at all, it'll be 0% and red. And for all the metrics, like the combine score, the game score, the games played, height, weight, all this stuff, the lowest number will be red, and the highest number will be blue for the metrics where higher is better, and for height and weight. But for the other metrics, like 40-yard dash and 3-cone and shuttle, where lower is better, the lower numbers will be darker blue, and the higher numbers will be darker red. And you'll get a sense for this as we scroll through this list. As I said, as it gets closer to 50%, it gets white. As you get closer to the average, it gets white. And as we continue to scroll down the list, we'll see the colors respond accordingly, at least in respect to similarity. And there's our list of people. Now there are things you can do with this list. You could say, just show me the top. Right now we have the top, however many we have. We don't have 300 players, but we have the top 300 that are expected to show. We could say, how about just the top 25? And when we do that, we just show the top 25. And when I say top 25, it just means the top 25 sorted by combine similarity. If we decided to say, you know what, we actually want to sort this by games played, now we're just showing the top 25 people, or pretty much the 25 quarterbacks with the highest games played in the data set, and it'll stop. You can always flip the sort around, which will then show the lowest 25. So if we flip this around, You know, here are all of our quarterbacks with 1 or 2 or 3 games played. We can uncheck that. Now, going back to the filters, right now, this is sorted by games played. Let's include everybody. And we range from 300 down to 1 or 0. If we set a filter and say, you know what, we just want to compare ourselves to players with over 100 games played, click enter, and we scroll down. Now this list, again, it'll only contain players that have over 100 games played. And you can use that for any of the filter criteria that you want to see who your comparables are within the ranges of filters that you deem relevant. Put that back to 0. And that's it. That's how it works. So I hope this video was helpful. And again, like I said before, I have this homepage that has a bunch of resources. I'll have videos for how this works, my contact information, what each of the metrics mean, where the data comes from, how to interpret z-scores, how to interpret similarity in game scores, and a bunch of other things, resources for you. So don't hesitate to let me know if you have any questions, and I'll dig into more detail on a few things in other videos.